All right, so people have been extremely unfair to Jayson Tatum. And the thing is, I kind of saw this happening a while ago. So I have a video that I put up on my feed. It's titled, Even If the Celtics Win, They Lose. And that's referring to them winning a championship, which they ended up doing. And the idea is, even if the Celtics win this championship, people are still not going to give them credit. And that also applies specifically to Jayson Tatum. He has an amazing game 5 in that series, takes over, has some amazing moments, some of the most iconic of his career. He did not shoot the ball well throughout that entire series and throughout the postseason as a whole, but he still plays in a way that helps his team win. If Tatum is not out there doing the things that he's doing, the Celtics do not have a chance against the Dallas Mavericks, right? And so he goes out there and does that, helps his team win a title, and people are still running with all these negative narratives and storylines about him. And I think it's been unfair, right? And it's kind of rooted in this idea that maybe he isn't the guy that we thought he was. So if you look at Jayson Tatum earlier in his career, especially like around the 2020 season, that's where he kind of showed us that maybe at some point in time, he can end up being a superstar level player. He can end up being like the number one player on his team. He can end up being like a top 3, maybe number 1 player in the league around 2020. Those were the thoughts about Jayson Tatum. And so fast forward 4 years later, is he that? Did he live up to those expectations? No. But the truth is, he is still a very high level, high impact, elite level player. He did something in the finals that I think as basketball fans, we should be praising and giving him a ton of credit for. His jumper was not falling, like I said earlier, right? He wasn't efficient. He wasn't the scorer that we're kind of used to seeing him be. He was not as good from a scoring standpoint. That's just a fact. But even when that part of his game wasn't working and he wasn't able to dominate the game through his ability to score at an efficient level, he was still doing other things to impact winning. The passing, the defense, the rebounding, all of those things. And so what I think happened with Tatum is he showed that maybe he's not the most optimized as like a primary number 1 30-plus point per game scoring option. Maybe his role is being a super high level all-star all-around threat, right? Maybe that's what Jayson Tatum's lane is on a winning championship winning team, right? Why can't people just recognize that? I think that should be the conversation about Tatum instead of this idea that he's not the guy we thought he was going to be. He's not really a number 1 on a championship team. He's overrated, all of that stuff. I think the conversation about Tatum should be that he is a great all-around player, and he is the most optimized as a Swiss Army knife type of guy. People are not talking about that, but that's what he showed throughout the NBA Finals against the Dallas Mavericks, is that is his lane. Right. And it should be something that we celebrate because, as I said, players who can make up for their lack of scoring and their lack of efficiency by doing other things, we should be praising them. We should be talking about them in a positive light. That's something that great players do. I always say this. A great player knows how to impact the game when their scoring isn't at its absolute best. So if you look at Nikola Jokic, right? He can have a game where he has like just 15 points, but he's going to create a high impact for his team because of his ability to do other things, his ability to rebound, his ability to just orchestrate the offense, and obviously his ability to pass the ball and find open teammates. Tatum has shown this idea that he can do other things. So he is a great all-around player. But again, the only conversation out of this is that Jayson Tatum isn't the guy that we think he is. No, I think the truth is we just saw that he has a different lane than what we expected, and he's more optimized in that lane in context of being a championship level player because he can go average 30 plus points per game pretty much anywhere. But what is his best role on a championship level team? And as I said, that is that of a great all-around Swiss Army knife type of player. And things have also been very rough for him, obviously, throughout this Olympic basketball stage where Steve Kerr has been really wishy-washy with his minutes for Jayson Tatum. So there have been games where he started, especially kind of on the showcase side of things. There have been games where he didn't play at all. And there have been games where he maybe is coming off the bench and he's playing limited minutes. There have been those situations. But what I want people to understand about that is this. And everybody kind of knows it, but there are kind of people who are just still sticking to these ridiculous narratives. Steve Kerr has 12 guys on his team. His job is to create the best lineup situations possible so the guys on the court are able to do what they need to do. They have to fit, right? So yes, he's a very talented player. He's a great player, all of those things, but they're just situations where he just doesn't fit next to other guys. Does that make him a bad player? No, right? Like, I think Joel Embiid is better than Anthony Davis, but I think Anthony Davis makes more sense in the starting lineup over Joel Embiid. He's better when it comes to creating and setting a tone early in the game, making plays around the rim, making athletic plays around the rim, and also his defense. I just think he's better as a starter on this team than Joel Embiid. That does not mean I think that Joel Embiid is worse than Anthony Davis as a player. So Steve Kerr's job is to optimize the lineups that are on the floor, and sometimes going to make decisions where certain guys just don't go out there and play. And I've seen people talk about this. Why is Derek White playing? Why is Drew Holiday playing? Those guys are role players, right? Who specialize in specific things. Derek White being a really good 3-and-D guy, and Drew Holiday kind of being the same, along with being kind of a Swiss Army knife player himself. They make more sense fitting next to Steph Curry or like LeBron in certain situations, right? So that's the truth on why Tatum has not been playing. You have 12 guys on the team. Your job as a coach is to put the guys, the best 5 on the court that fit together, right? I can't say the best 5, but put 5 guys on the court who fit together. That may not be the 5 best players on your team, but that's not his job to put the 5 best players on his team out there on the court. His job is to put the 5 guys who fit the best on the court together so they can perform at a very high level, because we've seen so many super teams in the NBA fail because they may have a lot of talent, but guys just are not the great fit next to one another, and they don't make sense playing alongside with one another. So that's my thoughts on why Tatum has been getting some DNPs. He may not make sense as a rotation piece sometimes for this Team USA squad on this Olympic stage. People have taken that and have applied it to Tatum here, saying that he's not that great of a player. If he was a better player, if he was really a number 1 option, if he was really that guy, he wouldn't be getting DNPs on the Olympic stage. And like I said, that just kind of ignores all basketball logic, right? Where Kerr's not playing him because he isn't good enough. It just does not make sense from a starting lineup perspective or a lineup perspective to have him around certain guys in certain situations. Yet, as I said, people have taken that and have continued to use it as a way to build up like this negative narrative about Jayson Tatum. And I just really think it's been unfair for him to be in such a negative light after doing something amazing. So many people were expecting him and the Celtics to win a championship. There wasn't a team that had more pressure to succeed and to win a championship this season or last season than the Boston Celtics. It was 100% championship or bust. And what Tatum did, all Tatum did was be amazing from the start of the season all the way to the finish of the season and help his team win a title. Yet the narrative around Jayson Tatum is so negative. It's so dark. It's like, it's almost as if he didn't go and win a title, right? I've never seen a player, and you guys can let me know if I'm wrong. From when I started watching basketball, I've never seen a player this scrutinized after winning a title. I've never really seen it. But again, I said I had a video that I put on my feed a couple months ago. I saw this coming. People were never truly going to give Jayson Tatum the credit that he deserved. And I think that's a really casual thought process to kind of have about him, because he's not this dynamic scorer in finals championship level situations, that he's not the guy or whatever for Boston. And there's also the fact that Jaylen Brown won MVP, and people are kind of taking that to have this conversation about JB being the best player on this team. All of those are casual thought processes, and I think they ignore what Jayson Tatum does bring to the table for his team, which is a lot. Maybe Tatum is not a number 1 option. I'm kind of going to revisit an idea that I had earlier in this video. Maybe Tatum is not a number 1 option on a championship level team. Maybe he's not that 35 plus point per game scorer that some people thought he was going to end up being, like around 2020, right? Where he started kind of entering this all-star, borderline superstar level in his career. Maybe he's not this guy, but he did find a role that he is optimized in. He did establish himself, in my opinion, as a great all-around wing. Yet people are not giving him any credit for that. And I think it's ridiculous, because it's great that he found his niche and found a role that optimizes his team and helps them get the most success possible. Have things been completely positive for Jayson Tatum the last couple of months? No, but he is the perfect example, right, of somebody who has done positive things, who has done great things from a basketball context, yet people want to run with these negative narratives and completely ignore those positive things. That happens all the time, and we are seeing it happen in real time with Jayson Tatum, where there are some real tangible things to appreciate about his game. Like I said, the defense, the passing, the scoring, the rebounding, just that great all-around skill set. But people have fell into these conversations and these narratives about Tatum that have been completely negative and unfair, despite these amazing things that he's on the court doing. And I think that's got to stop, because how many talents, how many great NBA players are we going to have to wait to appreciate later, right? How many guys are we going to have to see throughout the course of NBA history where maybe they weren't appreciated when they were playing and later on they were like underrated? How many guys in NBA history does that have to be, right? Until we kind of realize maybe we were negatively reacting and wrongly negatively reacting at that time. So for Jayson Tatum, I think this little stretch he's had this season, especially where he was not shooting it well in the finals, but still made up for it, that's going to be something people look back at as, man, we didn't really appreciate what Tatum was doing. How many times does that have to happen? There are just too many players that we look at like that, where we just appreciated them later. And I don't want that to happen to Tatum. And sadly, because of the way conversations have been, this season has kind of gone in the waste from a narrative's perspective for Jayson Tatum. We did so many amazing things and showed off his all-around skill set better than he's ever shown off in his career, yet people aren't truly appreciating it and giving him his credit for it because of a bunch of other storylines and things like that. So the hope is that Tatum does not internalize any of this, and to be completely honest, he's making too much money to really internalize all of it. But hopefully that's the truth, that he never internalizes it and he doesn't try to appeal to the fans by becoming the player that he's not. He's found this niche. He's found the perfect role for himself. And I think he should continue to play within that role so the Celtics can create possibly the next dynasty. But this role for Tatum is perfect. I just think it's going over a lot of people's heads and they're not appreciating it. I think we've got to take a step back, look at what he's doing, and give him the credit and the flowers that he fully deserves.